Good morning, traders. Today is Thursday, February 3rd. My name is Charles, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream. Okay, well, just to give you an idea of what I'm looking at for the opening here today, first thing this morning, I'm kind of looking at these two nodes of volume. I'm looking at this node of volume just below yesterday's low, and this node of volume that we left behind a couple of days ago. So that is the node above us is like 45.35 to 45.30-ish, and the node below us is about 45.07 to 4500-ish. Okay, and here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking today we either go sideways in between these two nodes and just kind of bounce around, or if we break out above or below one of them, we'll get some continuation there. So if we got, above this node of volume, let's say get back into yesterday's range, come back down and find support, I'd be looking for a long for continuation higher. And if we got below this node from 2 days ago and came back up and found some resistance, I would look for further downside continuation. Now, I just wanted to say that first for those people that tune in later and then they go back and watch the first 5 minutes. Now I want to take a second to talk about how freaking nuts that sell-off was that happened yesterday, and talk about my my conspiracy theory on what was going on there. They say it's Facebook's fault. I think that's BS. I don't think Facebook, one single stock, can take down the entire S&P 500 futures that quickly and that intensely. And I also just thought the way we were trading at the end of the day yesterday was very, very strange. Now, if we zoom out and we look at the regular chart, the regular candlestick chart, we can see we had a trend line from the highs that we perfectly bounced off of, and the 618 from the Fibonacci for the retracement. So it was completely reasonable for the market to find resistance here and then have a massive sell-off. But it's the way it did it that was so interesting yesterday. We should have got that resistance in this candle here, right? These are 15-minute candles. We should have got that resistance there. Oh, market is open. But instead, they kept pushing and pushing and pushing up into it, making us think they had broken through, okay? And then out of nowhere, after the market closes, they have the massive sell-off, which was the push away. So to me, this feels a little bit engineered. And I know that you all are going to think I'm being a weirdo and a conspiracy theorist, but I think somebody somewhere knew Facebook was going to have bad earnings, and they spent the day yesterday convincing retail to get itself long for a breakout just so that they could cue that sell-off right when those Facebook earnings came out. So that's it. That's my conspiracy theory for the day. I won't go into it any further. But I watched it happen in real time, and I just thought this has to be engineered. There's no way this just randomly happened. It was too exact. The level where they did it, the style, the way they did it, and the way the last couple hours of the day yesterday made no sense. It was like, it didn't seem like normal human psychology, the way the market was. I was just like, the people on the private stream will tell you, the whole time I was like, I don't understand what's happening. I don't get this. Why isn't the market pulling back? What's going on? Well, now we know. They wanted to keep retail long right into the close so that they could take their money. So, okay, well, what does that mean for today, right? So we had that, bounce off the 618. We had that bounce off the resistance from the trend line. And then we were having a little bit of pullback. Well, that means the market has had enough excess, right? It had a big enough push to the upside, and now it needs to balance off that excess. There are two ways for the market to balance off excess. One way, it pushes higher, and then it comes back down with price to balance off that excess, and then it can go higher from there. The other is it pushes higher, and then it just rotates sideways at higher prices. So today will be interesting to see, do we start kind of a rotational phase for the market where maybe it spends a few days kind of bouncing around, absorbing this breakout? Or do we need to pull back down with price? Does price need to continue down, repair all these weak references, look for support around these highs, and then get the continuation higher? We don't yet know, but I do think this was enough excess, and then the value area today opening below yesterday's value is a sign that that move is come to an end, right? When value was higher, we assumed that the trend would keep going, but now that value is lower, we assume we need to balance it off, okay? That momentum is now done, and we need to give the market a second to absorb it. So that is why my first focus this morning is on the node above and the node below, as that's pretty strong resistance or support in both cases. And where the market breaks out from there would give us more of an indication. Obviously, if we break below this node down here at like 45.03, we got a lot of weak references that need repair. But if we can get back into yesterday's range, we could also head back up to try to break through that resistance once again. So we could target the top of yesterday's range. So let's wait and see what the market's got for us. We do have a gap down, which is bearish, right? Overnight inventory obviously was net short, so we were looking for a counter auction to the upside. That counter option was very minimal here in the first couple minutes. So that is bearish to see as a gap and go. But I'm still, normally I would short a gap and go right away, but I'm going to wait until we get through this node right here, as it would not be unreasonable for me that we find support and then just rotate. So to get me short, they got to get below there. Please push that like button if you have not already. Got 102 people here, but only 20 likes. Only 1 out of 5 of you think I'm okay as a person. The rest of you judge me. And you don't like what you see. You can always push the thumbs down too. That's fine as well. All right, so we got the gap and go down, and we're starting to push through that support from 2 days ago. Still need to absorb that overnight inventory, which was net short. So the question will be, do they fill the gap, or do they get resistance before doing it? Large gaps like this often don't fill on the first day. So it wouldn't surprise me if we don't get a gap fill. Particularly if we push right into this resistance right here from the overnight and then we can't get any higher. Chris Yee, good morning to you. Ronald, the market walked the plank. Yeah, it did. Cyrus, good morning to you. David Glass in the house. Diego is here. Laser Eye, ahoy. MW, good to see you. Sanju, Jose is back with us. MW, such carnage because of Zuckerberg. Come on, markets. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's so bizarre to me that the ES would have that much of a sell-off because of Facebook. Facebook did get hit hard, though. They got like a 20% decline. But again, I think that's because somebody knew. Somebody with deep pockets knew it was coming. And they were prepared. Nor Auto Trader, good to see you. Philip is here. Rev back with us. Trading Donkey, up, down, or sideways? Got it. Yeah, well. You know me. I always have a scenario for every possible thing that could happen. That way I'm never surprised. But that's the nice thing about the way I look at markets and the way I trade them is I don't need to know what the market's going to do. I just need to be able to recognize what it's doing in the moment. But ahead of time, I have any possibility. It could go up, it could go down, it could go sideways. And I know what it will look like. So once it starts doing that, I can trade it because I'm like, oh, it's doing what I thought. It's rotating or whatever. David V, good morning to you. The Addict in the house, welcome. Mudra, guten Morgen. John, good morning to you. RK, if only it were one stock. Amazon, Spotify, Facebook, Shop, etc. But they sold off on Facebook News. That's what's weird. Dean, welcome to you. Trading Donkey, not unreasonable to think a $1 trillion company losing 25% would take down the index. Yeah, take it down, but not that quick. And not, like I said, it was how it did it. It was the way it did it at a perfect inflection point. It was the way it did it right at the 618. It was very crypto-y. You know what I mean? It reminds me of Bitcoin, which always seems to have its pumps and dumps right at a perfect technical level. And it's always like a slight fake out just before, you know? So you can disagree with me, but I think somebody was planning that. All right, so we can still consider this just absorbing that overnight activity, right? So many people were short in the overnight that when they didn't get much further downside continuation, they're going to go ahead and take profits. So this isn't bullish to me until we test that zero line on the ticks and see if new buyers start to step in. As of now, it is still a gap and go to the downside. Ocean blue. I'm willing to push half a like so far. How do I do that? Well, you see, you take your fist and you forcibly push it towards your face as hard as you can. Ronald, anyone seeing the room? I got no Charles. I hope you got me now. If not, you can't hear me tell you to probably just refresh. Oh, there you go. He got it. Amir, it was Nancy. Classic. MK, good morning to you. Ozzy, hi. Good to have you on the live stream. Welcome. John Doe, good morning. Doe time. You down with op? I'm not sure what op means. So it was you, Jitten. You're the one. All right. Well, we still got a gap and go. We got resistance literally right at the first node of that volume from overnight. So that is a little bit bearish to see. Remember that a rotational day today would not be unreasonable as a way to balance off the excess. Train Ducky, here's the thing that you don't see. When a giant like Facebook sells off hard, it causes a domino effect because of leverage. Basically force selling in their other holdings. Sure. And the algorithms, right? The algorithms are designed to pile onto those trends. I get it. Macvins, what is 618? It's a Fibonacci level. I'm not really a good enough Fibonacci trader to be teaching, Fibonacci at all. I just kind of have a very simplistic understanding of it, which is that a lot of times when you have like a massive move one direction or another, it retraces usually at least like halfway if it's going to find support and get continuation. Another common level is what's called the 618. So, for example, because this was a move down, on the way up, we'd look for resistance at the 50% and then at the 618. And it's just very, very common that that's where the market finds resistance if the move is going to continue. Same thing to the upside. If you have a move up, pulling back down to the 618 will often get you the support you need for continuation higher. Oh boy. All right, well, the market's testing its support once again in this node from 2 days ago. If that breaks, we're on our way down to start repairing all the weakness below. And there is a lot. Chitin, I bought them at 357. Holy moly. You've perfectly timed that trade. Well done. Oh, John Doe is the OPE song. I get it. Skewball, 50% gap fill. Correct. We did get that 50% gap fill. Cotton Dog, a high was at the overnight halfback? No, it was in the node of volume just below yesterday's low. So essentially they traded below yesterday's low, and then that became the resistance for them that they couldn't get back up into yesterday's range, which is what led to the market moving lower. So their resistance is still there. Okay, so the first time we pushed down through here, we still had a lot of overnight activity that we needed to absorb, but I think now we have. So if this node around the open acts as resistance as we push back up into it, that will be a little bit bearish to see. And we're doing it right now. S&P Addict posted his day from yesterday in the Discord. I'll go check that out after the market closes today. And good for you for posting even when you had a bad day. That shows you're a man of honor who wants to be real, not be right. Okay, so we did get resistance in that node. That is bearish. There are new sellers that are trying to push the market lower here. So once again, if this node that's acting as support right now breaks, we got weak references as targets below. The first is 4,500. The next is 44.95, and then 44.72. Cotton Dog. What was the overnight halfback? Okay, terrible taper on the low. So this resistance is sellable to head back down there and repair it. I have halfback for the overnight at 45.44. My guess is if yours is different than mine, you're including the 15-minute runoff period after the market closes as part of your regular trading hours. I do not. So everything from 4 p.m. till 9:30 a.m. the next day is all my overnight. The way I think about it is the regular trading hours, that's when I'm trading. Everything else is overnight. Okay, so the B period just created what's called a poor low because we stopped one tick from the A period low. So that just further increases the odds. The market needs to push down here and get a few more ticks of excess to the downside. And if we do, we're right at the bottom edge of that support, which in my mind increases the odds we need to repair at least the weak references at 4,500. Monitoring for continuation lower from there. Dean, I took another 3 points flat for the day. For the day? It's so early. We're 33 minutes into the day. I get in and I get out. Hey, fair enough, man. Print your money and take the rest of the day off. Scooball, weak references are strong in the last few days. Yeah, I mean, we have bounced. We've had a lot of bounces off of poor and weak references. The whole move, as a matter of fact, was off a poor low, I think, if I remember correctly. Yeah, but I'm not going to change my tune until they get the ticks above the zero line. I think they're just squeezing people's stops right now. Donkey Damn so tempted to buy Amazon for a short-term trade. How much time has Amazon spent below the 200 daily over the past 20 years? Is it under the 200 daily? One could also make the argument that you've got a, 2-year balancing area in here that you looked below, came back up, found resistance. I suppose it was actually more of a channel. Charles, we don't understand. How are you still bearish? Well, the idea of rotating sideways today is very realistic. I certainly wouldn't be against the possibility of doing that, but I do think we still need to repair that low. Because of the combination of the fact that it is both poor and it has such terrible taper, that tells me that this big node of volume right here is a short-term trader. They're trying to buy the exactness. And so, to my mind, they're going to take profits, right? And that little push higher, that may have just been their chance to take profits. So as long as they keep pushing those ticks back below the zero line, I believe the repair of the poor low is in play. And like I said, that could start to lead to a big drop. So I don't want to be looking for longs in here, even though it's the lower end of the range. I want to look for continuation lower. They'll change my mind when they get those ticks above the zero line and keep them there. All right, well, I can't fight the market-generated information. It's saying rotation here, so I'm back to a neutral stance. But I do still think that poor low is in play. Just might need to push up into resistance one more time before we get there. Robo Futures Trader, on the NQ, I'm shorting pops into the VWAP. Feels like someone who needs to execute at that price is building for the next leg down. Interesting. Yeah, the larger institutions often use the VWAP as a as an entry, so they won't go short unless they're above it, or long unless they're below it. So that makes sense. Zeb, it's set up for a normal PA retrace to 45.60, but sell sweeps continue to be executed between 45.18 and 45.21. Buyers can't find traction yet. All right. Well, initial balance is now to the upside, and we're back filling that gap. So we got lots of resistance in here and resistance at yesterday's low. If we can get back up into yesterday's range and then come back down and find support in here, I would be bullish for continuation higher. Otherwise, resistance will lead to a rotation back down. David V. Charles, do you think the overnight POC acts as a magnet? Acts as a magnet. Yeah, a little bit. I think you could look at any volume node from the overnight as being a place where the market will find support or resistance, but I don't think about it like a magnet in terms of pulling price to it. The only thing that's a magnet right now, which coincidentally is the POC, is the gap, the market wanting to fill that gap, which coincidentally would be right to the POC. But I don't think it's because the POC is there. Zeb, that trader who bought the 1650 contracts at the low, got his way. Yeah, he sure did. The question is, did he take profits or is he still in that trade? My guess is he took profits. Shubaho Deep. Good morning, Charles. Seems again to be a big initial balance range in play, and the market shall gravitate and form a normal to normal variation structure. I'm not sure what that means. Ideally would have liked 4460 clip and then a review. I don't know what that means either. You're using terminology outside my wheelhouse. Sanju, what are the answers to 3 questions given neutral and watching? So what he's talking about is the question of, what is the market trying to do and how good of a job is it doing? The answer is I don't know. That's the problem. My guess is that it's balancing off the excess, right, from the 3 straight days of a trend higher. And it's doing a great job of it if it's going to rotate sideways. But we don't ever know, when we get excess like this, we don't know if we're going to balance it off by going sideways at higher prices or pull back down and repair it with price. It's do we repair with time or price? And I don't have an answer yet. If it hadn't have been for the terrible taper at the low here, I would have just expected that we were going to rotate between these 2 nodes. Like, okay, we got to spend a few hours bouncing around in here before we pick where we're going to go. But this just, my mind can't let it go. Isaac, hello. Please explain what's on your main screen. Yeah, no problem. It's called Market Profile software. And it basically is looking at the same exact information as regular candlesticks. It just formats it in a 3-dimensional way so that you can see both how much time and how much volume trades at each price. So these little letters that you see right here, think about those as if they're 30-minute candlesticks, right? Each letter represents one 30-minute time period. And the reason I have 2 of them next to each other like this is because one is collapsed, where they're overlapping each other, and one is expanded out, where I can see each 30-minute period. It's too early to tell because we're only 2 hours in the day, but let me just expand out the overnight here, and then you'll see what I mean. So when it's expanded out like this, it's like a regular candlestick, right? You can watch how the market is moving. But then when you collapse it back together, you start to get to see this shape right here, which allows you to see where the market spent the most time, right? Spent the most time in here during the overnight. So it just gives you a different perspective on how to look at the market. All right, they pulled the POC higher. That's a little bit bullish to see. So over here to the left, that's the volume profile for today's range. Just shows us where the most volume traded. And the one over here is for the current 30 minutes. All right, ticks are trending up, so I think a gap fill is in play for sure. And we're looking for resistance at yesterday's low. We've also just begun one time framing higher, which is a little bit bullish. So moving forward, to give you guys advice for those of you that won't be on the private stream. Don't know why you won't be on the private stream. It only costs $10. I mean, it's a pretty good deal if you ask me. But anyway, if you won't be on the private stream, essentially pay close attention to yesterday's low. If we get resistance there, if we try to push up into yesterday's range and we can't get up in there, I would look for rotation, today inside this range here. And then, of course, if you break the lows, as I've been mentioning all morning, there's a lot of weakness below in need of repair. But we could just bounce around in here today. If they're able to get back up into yesterday's range and they come back down and find some support, you could look for continuation higher. Pretty much heading back up towards yesterday's high and then retesting that resistance there. And with that, I shall bid you all farewell. Have a great rest of your day. Hope you make lots and lots of money. And I will see you here tomorrow morning. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.